Okay, so everyone, welcome to the third installment of the 2021 Lunch and Learn series. This event is brought to you by IVCC's Rho Omega chapter of Phi Theta Kappa International Honor Society. My name is Gracelyn Klesse, and I'm the Student Recruitment Specialist at IVCC. I'm here today with my PTK co-advisor, Azeret Loveland.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on a cold, blistery day. And hopefully, I don't know, I'm assuming that maybe you guys are in Illinois, but we've had the opportunity to have some other people just in different states. So this morning we woke up to a lot of snow. Anyway, I'm not going to be the news anchor today. This is a really exciting thing for our students, and we're very, very excited to have some engineers to share kind of their paths. And so this is a good place for students, whether they're at IVCC, at the high school level, or really anyone that wants to know more about how do I, even start a career thinking about engineering. So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you're joining us, please mute yourself. And then there's also the chat feature. So feel free to submit any questions that you might have. We'll make enough time to answer some of those questions. And then just know that this session will be recorded. We want to be able to offer this to any students or anyone interested in the future. Thank you.
So this is the part of school and higher ed that's all about real world preparation. For these students, maybe today's the day that you hear about your future career and you're like, that's what I want to do. So we're going to be covering quite a bit of ground. So I'm going to hand it off to our student moderator, PTK President Jackie Wilson.
Hello and welcome, all panelists involved today. Thank you so much for being a part of this and accepting our invitation to speak at PTK's Engineering Lunch and Learn. Can each of our guests please share your name, title, and the organization that you work for? If we could start with Chris.
Sorry about that. My name is Chris Siebner. I'm a consultant with my own company, Make LLC. Previously, I was the director of engineering for a company called Liquid Tech.
Morning, everybody, or afternoon. Thanks for having me. Alex Escatel. Currently, I'm an area manager for Sterling Site Solutions, which is a civil contracting company that focuses a lot on environmental and construction services.
And this is Chris Eager. I'm the Director of Operations and Environmental Health and Safety at Epsilite. We are located in Peru, just north of IVCC, not too far. And we make expandable polystyrene resin.
AJ Dieters. I'm a civil engineer. I work for Walsh Construction. We are a general contracting company that does multiple facets of work. I work on the building side, so I've been building high rises downtown my entire career, and I'm a project manager.
Thank you so much for those introductions, and thank you again for being here today. As students, we know that we are supposed to be working towards professional careers, but we don't actually know what the day-to-day responsibilities look like once we actually get there. Can you share a little bit about what a typical day looks like for you? And again, start with Chris.
So in terms of what I do today, I spend my days very differently each and every day. So as a consultant, but kind of in a way that's helpful for the students here on the call. As an engineer, my role very much centered around, early on at least, working directly with clients. I was an applications engineer. I did a lot of what would be referred to as pre-sales work, gathering information, getting to know client needs, and working with my team to design solutions, particularly for healthcare clients. So the day could either be spent in the office, working through various Excel spreadsheets, getting everybody's favorite data all scraped together so that it could be then presented to a client in a meaningful way. But about 60% of my time was spent in the field. A lot of travel, I got to see a lot of the world early on in my engineering career. And got to explore. I got to be a basement ninja. I got to see the underbelly of a lot of very large buildings, a lot of big structures, and built a career on that.
Alex Escatel. So day to day, a lot of coffee. Usually start with at least 1 cup in the morning, and then most of my day, it's more project management focused than engineering, and a lot of my days on the phone. So multitasking is really, really big for me. So usually first thing in the morning, a lot of crews start around 6:30 to get started, and my phone's ringing right away. Trying to help make decisions if problems come up, which, in construction, they always do. Just trying to help make best decisions. And then at the same time, I'm responsible for our ComEd group. So all the work with ComEd, which is our biggest customer, trying to get into some business development and new relationship with other customers. And I'm in charge of pretty much all of Illinois right now and some surrounding areas. So just coordinating with our team, trying to offer support where I can, making sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, just trying to delegate as much as I can, and just making sure that, at the end of the day, our customers are happy. So, keeping in touch internally and externally with them. But, estimating is a big portion of my day, reviewing estimates, new work and existing work. But, the biggest thing, and I think you'll get it from a couple of them, is just on the phone all day. Try to get out when I can, but it's tough.
For me, well, first of all, throughout my career, which is 18 or 19 years long now, I've always worked at a manufacturing facility, either an oil refinery in Minnesota or a couple of chemical manufacturing sites here in Illinois. My current role as director of operations, my primary responsibility is safe, compliant, and reliable operation of this site here in Peru, and the production of the product we make. So, much like Chris and AJ said, things are always changing. So we operate 24/7, 365. So it's kind of it's just a reality where anything can happen at any time. So things are always changing. But a typical day for me would be, basically a morning routine. With the first thing is understanding the status of our site, the status of our business. If we had any safety issues, those are rare, but if we had, they become the top priority, of course. How are our production rates? Are there any issues or problems that need resources to solve them? Does the team need any help solving them? And really just making sure we have the right resources assigned to address any issues that we might be having. We have about 95 employees here on site, but from there, each day is different. In my current role, I could be spending time on strategic planning or employee development, project management. We execute projects here on the site, budgetary issues, selection and hiring. Seems like there's always an open role or two most times. Some community activities like this, or Chamber of Commerce, some other organizations out there that I'm involved with. So, and then when I have time, my favorite thing to do is actually spend time out in our plant, on the floor, out in the field, auditing, answering questions, and interacting with people. One thing that I would say for sure that AJ mentioned that really echoes with me is you got to be good at multitasking. You have to be able to be good at spending 5 minutes on something here, 10 minutes on something there, and really budgeting your time carefully, but being adaptable too. That's a big part of my reality also.
So my typical day, working for a general contractor starts, pretty early in the morning. I'm usually in by about 6 o'clock, kind of going through it, and the phone's pretty much starts like Alex was saying as well. It goes from there. But with us, as Chris mentioned, their safety is a number one priority here at Walsh. So we start every day. We have a couple crews that start a little bit earlier, but for the most part, everyone starts at 7. So when we're on site, every day starts with a stretch and flex, and that's for management and trades alike. So the first 10 minutes of every morning, I go out there and I stretch with all the workers on site, making sure that they get their bodies prepared and ready to go to work to help prevent any soft tissue issues. So then that kind of works into the rest of it. every day is something different. On a construction site, or even let's just say the whole construction process. So the job I'm currently working on, I was in pre-construction, which is estimating, kind of taking drawings from about 7 napkin sketches with the client, with the architect, in a collaborative effort. It's more office work, going to a lot of meetings to coordinate, come up with the best mechanical system that they want to use, the most cost efficient building, kind of work through the foundations, kind of work through every step of that project to get it to a price point that the owner can build it. And now we are 13 weeks from our turnover. It's much more engaged in the field, trying to execute the plan. So depending on where you're at in the phase of the project will dictate kind of what my day looks like. But being an engineer, in this, we are problem solvers. Every day there's probably, you have your list of problems, and being able to prioritize which one needs to be solved right now, which one can be solved tomorrow, which one can be solved next week, and being able to get those answers out efficiently while you're coordinating a team of the staff here. And then, at peak, we had 250 men on site, and roughly a union laborer or a union with burden and fee costs $100. So keeping those 250 guys working 8 hours a day efficiently, helps save your bottom line, helps push that forward, and then also helps get the project turned over on schedule and on time. So every day is a little bit different.
Thank you. The next topic is what made you decide on your respective fields, and what did your college path look like?
So on my end, mechanical engineering specifically, I just kind of even more broadly engineering, I always knew that was what I was going to go into, but picking a discipline was challenging. Coming in from having a perspective at like as a freshman in high school that I was going to become an engineer someday, there's not a ton of guidance early on as far as what each of the dozen or so different disciplines in engineering really are all about. And I, on my junior year, summer, went to a conference that talked through each of the different disciplines, and I got to hear from industry professionals something like this. And listened to each of the different presenters, and the one that struck me most was the mechanical engineering representative, who made the statement that one of the great things about mechanical engineering is that he could work at an aerospace firm one day and then go across the street and work for Anheuser-Busch the next day, just based on the broad set of skills from the mechanical engineering discipline. I've always considered myself a jack of all trades and a master of none. It was a great way for me to kind of fit into a lane in the engineering realm.
For me, that's a tough question. So I knew I was really good at math and problem solving. So college, I went to IVCC for 2 years. So I just focused on that, right? And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I actually started in computer science, hated it. Sorry, Billy. But, gravitated more towards math, problem solving. I love those classes. I love the guys. I love the teachers. And then, so engineering kind of made sense. So I went that route, and I didn't really know what that meant either. I went structural. Is kind of what I was anticipating, but until I got the U of I, and like Chris said, there's so many different areas of engineering that you don't know about. I had no idea which one to pick. So I just kind of stuck with structural because it was math, numbers, easy, right? Or well, I guess kind of easy. And then we just had some professors and some introductory courses that showed different types of engineering, and my mind was blown. And then I was even more confused what to pick. Luckily, I went through with some other guys, so I had some other people to lean on, another support team, at IV, and, personal friends like AJ. So it kind of made it easy. And then growing up, I was always kind of handy, always liked the construction side of it. And I had no idea that was even part of engineering. So I focused on structural and construction because you can pick two. And it was just a super easy decision once I was able to see what was available, because I had no idea. It's so hard to plan your life in high school and college, and there's so many opportunities, and to pick one, just really tough. So, talking to people, and like Chris said, doing stuff like this and meeting outside people and asking questions and just trying to see what you want to do can be really difficult. But, opening yourself up to stuff like this, I think can help a lot. So that's kind of the path that I did. And then even when I graduated, the recession was pretty, there was a recession and the opportunities were pretty bad. So we had an opportunity to do a master's, and that's where I focused on construction. So I was kind of hedging my bets. I did my bachelor's at U of I with a structural emphasis, and then our master's with construction. And I said, well, let's see what jobs bring, right? And travel is always an option there for construction, and I was always interested in that. So I just kind of went out there, went to a lot of career fairs, printed out a ton of resumes, talked to a lot of people, and just grinded. And luckily, the company that, picked me up was an awesome company. And, I was with them for a really long time and learned a lot. But a lot you just kind of have to figure out on your own, which is very difficult, or, ask the right questions or meet the right people.
For me, this is great because everybody's got their own story, right? I like this. But for me, when I was in high school, my focus honestly was on pre-med programs. That's the colleges I was looking at. I wanted to be a doctor, but I do remember the exact moment when I changed my mind. And it was when I was actually reading about engineering in an encyclopedia, and it wasn't books. It was on a CD-ROM at least. Okay. But anyway, yeah, I was reading about engineering in this encyclopedia and these different, the different disciplines. And when I read about chemical engineering, I really got excited by learning about the types of problems that a chemical engineer could solve. I think for me, it was a combination of problem solving and kind of a love of chemistry in high school. I kind of saw those two things come together. And so then I shifted my focus on that. And so I remember, one of the schools I applied to and I ended up going to was Iowa State University. And even on the application, it said anticipated major. I wrote down chemical engineering, and I never changed. So just kind of stuck with that, saw it through. A couple other things one other thing, I guess, about my college path too, was that I did 2 9-month internships with different manufacturers. One was with Mercury Marine. If you're a boater, they make outboard motors and stern drives. So they have a plant in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. That was great. That was a manufacturing internship. And then I did one at a cornstarch manufacturing facility in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and that was an R&D focus. So I got kind of a manufacturing focused internship in college, and then an R&D focus internship in college, and it really helped me realize that I didn't want to do R&D. That was the big takeaway. So then when I went to do full-time job search, I was really focused on the manufacturing path.
So for myself, I think I'm like Chris. I always knew, my dad's an engineer. I always knew I was going to end up being some kind of engineer. But like you mentioned, there's multiple different disciplines. So when I was at LP, I took Mr. Schwingel's ACC 2-hour drafting class in the morning, my full junior year and my full senior year. So I spent, 2 hours a day, for 2 years of school, kind of learning CAD, learning drawings. And there was a lot of things that were mechanical engineering driven, kind of breaking it down, drawing things in 3D Inventor, and kind of doing that. And then there was, we did a bridge building contest every year out of balsa wood. We all got, 15 pieces of, 2-foot long balsa wood that we had to construct a bridge and draw it in Inventor. And then we broke the bridges in class. And I'll tell you, that moment my first bridge broke, I was going to be a structural engineer. I just knew that I was picking the civil field, and that kind of was my end of my junior year. I knew I was going to design bridges for a career. So after high school, I ended up going to IVCC for 2 years, #1 civil engineering school in the country at the time. I think we go back and forth, U of I or Berkeley, kind of going back and forth year and who #1. So I knew Illinois was the school I was going to, because I wanted to go to the top school. IVCC gave me a path to get the education I needed. Every single class I took there transferred down there. And then I was also able to do that in a financial way that would help me be able to actually, attend down there. So when I got to U of I, I think Alex had a very similar thing. We took all these classes and, it started with some of the general structure classes and then the construction side of it. And when I went there, I didn't even know that this was an opportunity inside the civil engineering field. This, I call it almost like a bridge role where we can be engineers and we communicate with the engineers and the architects and the mechanical engineers and the structural engineers. And we are that vessel that helps communicate those ideas and plans, as an advisor to our clients to build it. So I get the hands-on kind of approach of being out in the field and watching kind of running a project from top to bottom and bringing it out of the ground. But I also get to have those conversations on a daily basis, with the engineers, and then be able to be that facilitator, from the drawing, from the design, and communicate it to the tradesmen in the field and be that facilitator. And once I found that was kind of like a way where I might not get stuck at a desk, kind of designing stuff my career, but be able to kind of still be involved in projects of the scale I wanted to, but then also be able to have that communication skill, have a little bit more flexibility, have the opportunity for travel, and kind of be more of in that project management role and use it to be more of a problem solver and a communicator. That led me through the rest of my bachelor's at Illinois, and then I went on to get my master's in civil engineering at Illinois. A lot of, right with the recession and everything, it was kind of a unique opportunity with that to be able to get into the master's program I did to graduate and start my career.
Really nice. Okay, the next question is, what do you wish that you had known before starting on this career trajectory? If you were to do it over, what would you change?
Been struggling with this question. What do I wish I had known? Probably that software engineering and tech and really high tech would be such a huge component of what I would end up doing on a day-to-day basis. Back in 2011, when I graduated from Northern Illinois University, I jumped into a small business and went from, like I said, kind of a sales position selling water treatment technology to hospitals to a full-blown technology company over the course of the next 8 years. And I had to learn a lot of things through the School of Hard Knocks. I wish I would have taken some more time when I was in school and branched out a little bit and taken a couple of courses in some of the other departments in computer science, specifically in electrical engineering. Would have been really, really interesting to have some of that groundwork going into, again, a more broad skill set. But again, as I already said, that's kind of where my joy comes from, is learning a lot about a lot of different things. So.
For me,
Maybe Alex had an issue there. Should I go?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, we'll see if he joins back on. I think for me, the best advice I can give to people early in their careers is to not rush. Don't rush it. Take your time. I see a lot of times that professionals early in their career, seem like they're on a race to advance or get promoted, and that's just not worth the chase. Slow is fast, right? It's going to be a long career. So I think early on, it's important to gain a really broad level of experiences, which will then set you up for more advanced roles, broader responsibility in the future. It's just really easy to want to rush your career, but it's going to be long. So take your time. As far as me, I think if I were to do it over, what would I change? I would realize, I would tell myself back in the first 5 years or so of my career that I felt like I was busy, but I wasn't, right? You have a lot more time than you really think you do. And when you start to, increase your responsibility over time, and then, if outside of work responsibilities can increase, whatever it may be, through family or other things, you just end up, you really realize how important, what a valuable resource time is in your life. So I'm taking some graduate courses right now that I consciously decided early in my career that I wasn't interested in taking, and man, I wish I would have done this back then. It would have been a lot less disruptive. But so yeah, so slow is fast, play the long game, and plan ahead.
Yeah, I'm back on. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
It's okay. Yep.
I think Chris nailed that. What I wish I would have known before starting, that I don't know anything. It's very
Good one.
humbling. You can take all the classes and everything that you want, and I think a lot of what I'm seeing recently is a lot of people are coming in and expecting the world, right? But until you get in your career, every company works differently. Every employer has different requirements. Everything is different than, I'm sure, what you've been taught, right? So assume you don't know anything, and you'll do awesome. And really, really be humbled. And I think that's really, really an important lesson, that it's easy to come out of the gate strong. You put in the hours, and you can be real cocky, right? And you expect the world, but that's not how the world really works. You just got to put in your time, do your work, and there's a saying, right? If I think I'm great, I tell everybody. It goes something like this, and I know I'm great when people tell me, right? So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind and just do your work. Obviously still speak up and all that, but that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. And like Chris said, you can't have enough schooling either, right? The MBAs and all that, all that's great. All that can only help you and teach you, more stuff that you don't know. And then I think, I don't know, if I were to do it again, I don't know if I'd change anything. I'm really happy with what I learned and what I went through. IVCC, a really good place to get started. And I'd continue your education afterwards, but try to get in the market as soon as you can, build relationships, and just get to work. It's fun.
I think everyone kind of hit the nail on the head on what would you know before starting. I think I learn something new every day on the site, so kind of keeping that, keeping an open mind on what it is you're looking for, and then also the realization that there's not a wrong choice. So if you're choosing between a couple divisions of mechanical engineer or whatnot, we have mechanical engineers that work for us. And at that point when you get down there, you'll have work experience, or if you're choosing between two companies, you're never locked in when you're going through it. And I know when I was coming out of high school, you kind of saw me, junior year, I had figured out what I was going to do, and, be okay that, you can change as you change and as you develop and as you grow and you learn more. So don't feel like a decision that you're making today is going to dictate the next 30 years. As Chris said, take it slow. So if something comes up throughout your schooling, go for it. Don't be locked into a decision you made yesterday that affects your tomorrow. And I'm still learning that as we go. I think, it could have had a more open mindset, which could have allowed me to experience some other things as I was going through it. But as far as if I would change things, I'm happy with the company that I've been with since I graduated from college. I've almost been here 10 years now. And I'm very happy here. And because my path got me to where I'm at, I don't know if I would change it, but kind of maybe taking out of some of the little bit of the stress, feeling like at the time when you're in high school, or the time that you were in college, or those moments where you thought that this was the most critical decision of your life, coming back and saying, hey, you can move on, and there's other opportunities out there, and you're not locked into the decision for tomorrow. You can always make a new future if you want to. And I mimic everything everyone else said, but I thought I wanted to add a little bit more insight.
Thank you so much. That was great. For our next question, what do you advise students who want to pursue your fields, either in terms of college classes or gaining experience out in the community?
This is kind of coupled with the previous question. When thinking about college courses in engineering, a lot of your program is going to be spelled out for you based on what discipline you target. But there will come a point where you do have some forks in the road where you get to make some decisions. And one of the decisions that, just kind of thinking through this, I was most grateful about is I went over to the engineering technology building and I took a course on plastics and composites. I had heard that the teacher was great. I had heard that the class itself was not extremely difficult, but covered a wide variety or ranging set of topics. And we get to work a little bit with 3D printing, and that hooked me. And the knowledge I learned from that 4-month-long course, I used it every single week throughout the beginning of my career, just knowing what all of those different materials were and how they performed. And it was a weird small decision that had a lasting impact. So if you have any kind of direction that you're thinking about going in, whether it's automotive, whether it's manufacturing, chemical engineering, whatever it may be, try and find those courses that maybe aren't directly on the path in the engineering building, but in one of the other technical fields, or even in the business area of business, and take a course that you're allowed to take and expand your horizons a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. To pursue the fields, I would say network, engineering, construction. You're very, very, very small communities. There's a lot of people that overlap and work together. Don't burn any bridges. Try to meet as many people as you can as early as you can in your career, because chances are, you never know if they're going to be a VP, president, or anything, right? And it could be beneficial to your future later on. And don't be afraid to ask for, help or question or support. I got an example that I shared with Graceland the other day. So at my previous company, somebody hit me up on LinkedIn. Some random guy added me, and I added him back. And he went to U of I, so I kind of had a connection there. And he's like, "Hey, I applied for a position, but I haven't heard back. Is there anything you could do to help out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I like to drive." So I went and reached out to our recruiting team. I passed along the information. I said, "Man, that was incredible. Like, he doesn't quit, right? There's a drive there, and he shows he's passionate." I said, "Set him up with an interview." So they gave him an interview like the next day or next week. So go out there, get in front of people, ask for numbers, contacts. If I were you guys at the end of this thing, I would ask us for our emails and phone numbers. I'm sure we'd be more than happy to share it. But that's all I had on that.
That's great. I think I agree with you guys completely. I think I guess I'll just add, in addition to that stuff, look at everything as an opportunity to learn, whether it's volunteering, participating in a student organization. Here's a good one: attending a career fair before you're actually looking for a job. So I remember going to career fairs both as a student, but then as a professional after I started my career with the first company I worked for. And I remember being impressed by students that came up and just wanted to learn, early on in their college careers, really looking ahead. So that's a good thing. And then I will definitely second, or maybe third, the networking component. Find people that are in your field or in positions you're interested in the future. Get to know them. They could really be a lifelong connection. Ask them questions. Try to gain insights and wisdom that you wouldn't otherwise get, until you were years down the road, so that you can make, even those little decisions like the one that Chris described. You can make them, you can be as informed as you can be when you have to make them.
Yeah, I'll agree with pretty much everything everybody said, but I'll kind of take it, kind of with those career fairs that you're talking about. Go to them often. And I'll tell you, when it comes to the classes that you take, in school, Chris got nail on the head. At Illinois, you got like maybe 1 or 2 classes that you get a chance to pick. Everything else is spelled out to get your accredited degree. So there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in what you can take. But every civil engineer student that comes up to me as a recruiter now at Illinois has the exact same class load. So the classes that you take at these colleges, is no longer your differentiator between what you and someone else. The differentiator is the other programs that you're in, either if that's joining a fraternity, you know, and myself, I was the philanthropy chair for a year on our, you know, running philanthropy events through my my fraternity, or if it's something else. But I would recommend finding a passion that you believe in, that you can get behind, and then taking on those roles in there. You know, in those items where you find that passion, that's what's going to separate you from your peers when you come up at a career fair, and that's going to help you get your foot into a door. It's also going to help you kind of show yourself as being a well-rounded person, and find an organization or a company that mimics the type of things that you're passionate about. Because when you get down to it, it's a two-way fit. You know, you're looking for a job now, which seems like it is, but at the end of the day, you want to find a company that you want to work for, that you want to be part of, that you're proud to say that I work there. So, you know, by being able to be well-rounded and finding out where your interests are, helps you be more than just maybe a number for an organization. And I think it also is a very big differentiator at those career fairs when you talk about those items, because the educational background is very similar for everybody that attends this, especially when you're going to you know, an accredited four-year university after the fact. That's kind of my ad.
Thank you so much for all of your advice. Our next question is, what is a reasonable path for your career in the field right now? What are some entry-level positions for students that will be looking at the job market?
So specifically in my realm, I went the route of kind of super niche, where I had no idea that I did what Chris Eager talked about, where you go and you apply and you go to those career fairs and you talk to a bunch of companies, you spread yourself out, and you know, hopefully some people get back to you and you connect with someone at that company. And I had that happen with a couple of different companies when I was first getting started, and I chose a path. I was able to either go work for Caterpillar in diesel engine development, or go for the company I did go work for, Liquid Tech, and again, small company in the realm of water treatment. Totally different places, totally different mentalities, very different career paths. So I chose the super niche route. In terms of kind of what the entry-level positions look like in that realm, start early and do a lot. So internships, try and get one. Don't wait until your senior year or your last semester in college to do that. Apply and as early as your sophomore or junior year. Try and get involved with an organization that you think you might want to go work for, because it's going to be a lot easier to work at a company for 6 months, kind of with a solid beginning and end date, and determine that this is something I want to do, or this is a culture that I think I can fit into, or this is a career path I think I can go on, or not. The more you do that early on, the better prepared you're going to be for that day when you finally have to wake up and work a job for the rest of your life. Don't, as Chris mentioned, don't waste the time that's available to you right now, because you'll never have this much time again. So and on my realm, I would highly recommend, I really enjoyed applications engineering really early on. Again, lots of field work, lots of interacting with clients, lots of getting out and doing things with your hands and with your mind, and a chance to really explore different aspects of your personality. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah, and speaking on the internship too, you know, depending what you get into, you can get a pretty good idea of what the positions look like, you know, what the time frame is to move up and all that. So I'd say for construction's pretty typical. I think engineering is a little different, so I won't speak on that. But for construction, I'd say if you're out of college, you know, outside an internship, but if you're out of college, or maybe you didn't finish college, I'd say come in probably around a field engineer or an assistant project manager, an APM. And that, you know, anywhere between 1 1 to 3 or maybe 5 years, depending on your skill set and what you bring in. If you're out of college, I think some people graduate out of it like 6 months or a year, 2 years, 3 years, something like that. But it's the amount of time and effort you put into it. And then after that, you move into like a project management role. And that you can be in for anywhere between, again, if you're a rock star, which is tough to see, but the standard is like 3 to 5 years, I would say. Then you go into some kind of senior management, like a senior PM or something, same thing, maybe 3 to 5 years. And then you move into maybe like a regional or a divisional role, again, 3 to 5 years roughly. And then I think you're opening up into like the C-suite, right? You're going VP level or director or executive level. And again, that's probably like 3 to 5 years. And so I'd say you're probably mid to low management for probably, I don't know, maybe you could be like there for maybe 15 years, right? And then by the time you're a VP, unless you're solid right out of the gate, just understand everything, which again is very tough. Maybe in your 40s, I would say. So just kind of some ballpark numbers, but obviously that's just kind of what I'm thinking.
Thinking about chemical engineering, I'll start with kind of the entry level positions. Well, process engineering is probably the most common, most traditional entry level role that a chemical engineer might start in. But other things like sales engineers, technical service engineers, production engineers, even quality control engineers. Those are all types of roles, types of positions that an entry level chemical engineering or a new chemical engineering graduate might look for. But probably more important than that diversity is all the different industries that someone in my field could be involved with. For me, it was oil refining and chemical manufacturing, but that's just one. I mean, foods. A lot of chemical engineers end up in food manufacturing, medical device manufacturing, things like water treatment, environmental services. I even remember classmates of mine from college that are in software. They work for software companies as chemical engineers. You might not think that, but the ability to solve problems and match up products or services with customer solutions. That could, if you get good at that, that really opens up a lot of things. So for me, personally, I did start out as a process engineer, ended up in essentially an operations management career. And so for me, I spent time doing process engineering as an entry level role, frontline supervision at our manufacturing plant, did some reliability and maintenance engineering work, health and safety, and what we call economics and planning, which is kind of like business analyst type role. And from there, kind of what I touched on earlier, I'll just reemphasize that, getting a diverse set of experiences early on is really helpful in positions later if you advance to have broader levels of responsibility. If you've been exposed to a lot of those different pieces, it really helps you be more effective as your career progresses.
So working for Walsh Construction, kind of talking through career path. So an entry level position here or in our industry is you're probably going to start off as an estimator or a project engineer, or field engineer. Yeah, a lot of different companies kind of have the different names for the same type of position, but you would be kind of more involved of reviewing and processing submittals, kind of more on that process. And the one thing that's interesting about the industry is that like Alex mentions, he works more on the electrical side of things. We're more, I'm working on the building side, but we also have a wastewater section. We have a sewage water section. We build hydro dams. We build bridges. We build roadways. We build airports. We have a diverse background. So you're depending on what group you go to or what type of project you are on, that entry level position, while you may have the same title, you're learning a completely different skill set. with inside the industry. So, kind of that, that project engineer, role, then, you're kind of the path up. Dan Walsh, one of our owners and CEO, he always has an analogy that your first 10 years of your career roughly are 90% technical and 10% soft skills. And right around that 10-year mark, some people might get it in 7, some people might be 15, but just say right around that 10-year mark, that actually does a 180. So you become 90% soft skills and 10% technical. And you're going to lean on that technical experience and expertise that you've gained over those first 10 years of your career to be a better manager, to be a better facilitator, because at that time, your value to the organization is not going to be your technical wherewithal. It's going to be directing the people that are working with you and having them be able to facilitate the goal, and you need to share that vision with them and be able to elevate those conversations to them so that you can be working with a group of people and not just by yourself. So that's kind of, I would say that 90-10 rule has been pretty accurate in my career and a lot of people that I've talked to in the industry and other industries as well. So maybe it's not 10 years, but it's right around that time where you switch from managing, the processes and the technical side of things to be more managing people and processes.
Okay, thank you guys. Super interesting. Right now we're going to open up for questions from our audience members. So those can be submitted through the chat. Anything that any of the viewers would like to ask our current panelists. I also wanted to mention that I had Mr. Schwingle in LP for drafting, and he retired 3 years ago, and he's enjoying retirement.
Great.
I've heard that he's enjoying retirement. So
He had a lasting impact on all of us.
Okay, so no questions yet, but has COVID impacted any of your jobs during this time?
Yeah, it certainly has for me. I'll chime in on that one. We essentially went to anybody on site that could work from home. We worked from home. We stopped bringing in contractors and visitors. We stopped all business travel. We got social distancing practices in right away, mask usage in right away. Paid time off changed, to make sure people weren't coming into work when they shouldn't be and didn't have an incentive to come into work when they shouldn't be. So really, it did affect pretty significantly the day-to-day operations here at our production facility. I was very impressed to see how the employee base here responded to it. We have had, I think, 11 cases is the count among our 95 employees here. And all of them basically, unfortunately, acquired outside of work, family, friends, the community, whatever. We haven't had any work-related transmission of COVID-19. From a business standpoint, luckily for us, it did not significantly impact demand for our product. So the business has done okay during the pandemic.
I can jump in here too. I think one of the things that, the safety protocols, the masks, working on an active construction site, with upwards to 200 guys, being able to manage that, effectively, you got to do the work on site. So the masks and, as a corporate, we've done very similar to what Chris says, no travel, around those items. But the one thing, with the construction industry, we're always I guess you call us a lagging indicator. We were under contract for this project prior to anything that happens, and it's a 15, 16-month schedule. So we're working through this. I do know that a lot of developers kind of in the mix of it stopped kind of looking at some things for a few months. It sounds like that's kind of ramping back up, but that's I think we're a lagging indicator of kind of things that happen inside the economy. So I think we'll be in that next wave, kind of seeing. It looks like there's a bright horizon, at least here locally. One thing about being a diverse company is different market sectors we're involved in, have different experiences, which was able to keep our diverse portfolio kind of kind of moving forward across the nation.
On the other side, working for a smaller business, I helped navigate as the director of engineering for 6 months before I exited, and still continue to help consult with that particular business on ways to pivot and really build off of what was happening, and really just get in and help. The businesses that they were working with were primarily hospitals and senior care facilities, and we had an extensive service arm. We didn't get to work from home. We still had to go into hospitals. We were in bunny suits. We were wearing N95 massive respirators and trying our best to stay healthy while also helping other people stay healthy, because we were actually working with healthcare and infection prevention, trying to prevent people from getting sick from the things in their environment. So COVID definitely fit square into our wheelhouse, and it just had to become part of our DNA to continue to help.
Yeah, same with pretty much everything everybody else said. We're just trying our best to make it through. The tough thing is newcomers coming in. So like you guys right now, starting a job, you lose a lot of that face-to-face, which I think is important. So you moved a lot of these Teams meetings, or what are we using? I don't even know what we're using. Zoom?
This one's Zoom, yeah.
So, I mean, that's important, and it's just really, really tough because I feel like the work-life balance is all out of whack because with daycares, and I know I was struggling with daycares, the kids, if you're married, it just adds another layer of complexity to it. It's good because it brings it more personal, right? You can hear the kids in the background, you can see what people are dealing with. But, again, the networking piece is huge. And if you're in construction, you can do a lot of that outside and manage your distance and all that. But besides that, it comes difficult, and you just have to really be better at multitasking even more than before, and try to work at your computer and do everything else. And maybe if you're not going to the office, trying to manage that whole thing on top of everything else you were doing. So it can be a little more complicated, and I think some people struggle, but we'll get through it.
I'll say I miss public speaking. I was public speaking about once a month prior to all of this, and the fact that I haven't been on the stage in over a year is weird. It's just nice to communicate with people on a wider scale.
Okay, we have a question from the chat. What do we think that we don't have to study or continue our education ourselves when we graduate? How do you advance in your career and stay up to new information? Stay up to date with new information as someone that's currently working?
Knowledge is the vehicle in which you're going to drive through your entire career and just life in general. Education is an important component of that. You can choose to build yourself a bicycle, you can choose to build yourself a Toyota Camry, or you can try and build a spaceship. But they all take various amounts of effort and commitment. So every single day I factor in at least an hour and a half of just core personal education, whether it be I read a lot on I love Medium. I have a subscription there. Love to read on a wide variety of topics and all different areas of business and product development. Read a lot of scientific research. Get stuff delivered to my email once a week from academia.edu. Reading is essential. Growing is essential, and always look to better yourself through education and knowledge.
I think a key thing here is there's so many ways to do this now, right? Chris touched on a lot of them, but there's free webinars now, right? Just about every single educational organization has gotten good at e-learning now, right? Over the last year plus. So I think that's important. I mean, you can take online courses at college, whether they're start of a curriculum or it's just an ad hoc course. And you can continue that, throughout your whole entire career. So I think it really just depends where you want to go and what you want to do. It's changing really quickly. So just keep up and understand all those different options and how you could continue to learn. But yeah, Chris is right. Knowledge will be your key skill, and the best way to gain knowledge is through experiences too. So so never be afraid to take a job or a role in an unfamiliar field, a new industry, different geographical area, whatever it is. Embracing new things will give you that direct opportunity to learn something new, and it'll help you become adaptable to new situations, which is a great lifelong skill.
Yeah, and a lot of companies are focusing on that because they realize what that turnover for employees is. So, you hire somebody, you invest in them, you put a lot of time into them, and then you want to keep them. So they train you. A lot of companies will require that you go through so many trainings a year, and then they try to model it based on where the company's lacking or where a lot of the, certain groups of people, maybe they'll say it's like all the APMs need contracts or something, or all senior level need to focus on leadership, and they try to help that way too. So, the companies play a big role in that, but like these guys are saying, you don't know what you don't know. So, I mean, if stuff pops up, you want to take it, just take it. Most of the time, I think the company will back you for that and, let you do it. So, just try stuff, and once you go to one thing, you'll get blasted with a bunch of other emails and notifications, other events that are coming up. There's like a huge spam list for it. So it's all out there.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I can add is you got to be a student of your marketplace. It's an ever-changing thing. So either it's from the sales size to keep things going, or from, in our industry, when I first started, I was given a rubber stamp and a pen. So my first shop drawing review that I did was, I stamped it and I signed it because the electronic side of things were still going. And you talk to guys that maybe started a couple years ahead of me, they were coordinating mechanical drawings on a light table, which you guys will probably never see a light table even if you go in this industry. But essentially there was a giant table that had a light underneath it, and you would overlay drawings on top of it to see who overlapped. Now all of this is done in the computer on CAD and 3D models and renderings, and the software is changing rapidly. And one thing with that is there's multiple different players in the marketplace. So, this week it might be a Procore or PlanGrid or, but the thing is the names are meaningless until you do that research on them and kind of get it to the point where will this help, will this not help? But you have to stay up on it, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. So, that's just the technology side of it, which is a minor part of it, but new materials are coming out and how those affect the project, kind of going through those items. And then, Chris, it sounded like you were taking some continuing education. When my kids get a little bit older, the MBA is definitely in my future to do, on that side, to give you, that little bit of, extra oomph on the business side of things, because as we all go through it, your company, unless you're working for a non-for-profit, your company's, end goal is to turn a profit. So at the end of the day, you're going to be there to make a dollar, for yourself and for the company. So all of the stuff that you do, all the management, everything you do kind of comes back to turning a profit, and being able to be involved in those decisions is something that I'm working on, doing webinars and some little things like that and some reading, but that's ultimately going to guide to, probably getting another master's degree, in the next decade here or so, as time allots with balancing your work and your personal life.
Even nonprofits need revenue.
They do, yeah.
Yes, they do.
Well, thank you so much today to all of you guys for joining us. That was a lot of insight, a lot of technical stuff that these students don't see in their day-to-day. So I'm glad that they're getting exposed to it early. And this is definitely a recording that we're going to be sharing. I know we have a lot of people interested in engineering, and so I feel like this will help kind of explain from ground level up what it takes to get there. And it was so great having you here. Thank you again. And next week, we're going to be having our next Let You Learn, which is for education careers. So we had Healthcare, business, engineering was this week, and next week is education. So thank you again to all our panelists and all our participants for jumping on today for our PTK Lunch and Learn. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and stay warm out there.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks for having us.